So the first thing we're going to want to do is get some reference images. So just open up your web browser and type in www.theblueprints.com just like it is here. And this is the website I use pretty much every time that I make cars. I'll get blueprints from here. So you can check out what they have. If you click on this blueprints database, it'll give you a whole bunch of different types of blueprints that they have: cars, motorcycles, trucks, etc. And I recommend you check this out because they actually have some pretty cool stuff. But for now we're just going to make a car, and so we're going to click on cars. And you'll see that they have them listed by the automaker, but I've already picked out a car that I'd like to make. So we're just going to do a quick search and type in McLaren 650S. And then hit enter. Whoops, I typed it wrong. And you'll see that we have three different options. The one we're going to make today is the coupe. So just click on the first one. And this is the reference image we're going to be using. You can buy like the vector drawings for some of these, but you don't really need to do that. I don't usually do that. I've never done that. All you have to do is just right click on this image, choose save image as, and save it to somewhere that you're going to remember. I'm just going to save it to the desktop and call this McLaren 650S. And to keep everything organized, I'm just going to make a new folder so that all of the stuff that we do with this tutorial is going to be together. So right click on your desktop, go down to new, folder, and I'm going to name this low poly car. You can name it whatever you want, but I'm going to name this low poly car and put this right here. And we're going to move our reference image into this folder to keep everything together. So now we have our reference image and a new folder ready for all of our new stuff. And we have what we need to get started, so let's go ahead and open up Blender. So double click on Blender and here we go. You should have an empty scene with just the cube, the light, and the camera. If you don't, just go to File, New, and reload startup file. It should give you your default scene, but it's not a big deal. We're just gonna be using this cube here. So since we're only using the cube, right click on the lamp, it'll show up in orange, and then go over here and hold shift and right click on the camera, and then press X or press delete, and then just confirm it by left clicking delete. So now that's gone, and all we have is this cube right here. This is what we're going to be using to line up our reference images, and then eventually we're going to be using it to start the beginning of our car. So there's a few things you're going to want to know when you're making a car. If you've never made a car before, or if you're new to Blender and you don't really know the controls too well, you're going to want to know how to get into side view, top view, and front view. And to do that, you're going to be using the number pad, which is the numbers on the right side of your keyboard. Not the numbers above the letters of your keyboard, but to the very right of your keyboard you should have other numbers with the number lock key as well. And when you hit 1, it's going to bring you to front view. When you hit 3, it's going to bring you to right view. And when you hit 7, it's going to bring you into top view. And those are the three views that we're going to be using. You can also go to back view, for example, by holding Control and then pressing 1. Holding Control and then pressing 3 will bring you to left view. Holding Control and pressing 7 will bring you to bottom. And those are the views that you'll probably be using the most for the beginning of your car, and to check out what things look like from different angles as we're making the car to make sure that everything looks correct. So now let's go into edit mode by pressing tab, and you'll see now down here it says edit mode. That's what you want to be in. And we're going to move this cube a little bit so that we can use it for lining up our reference images. And to do that, we're just going to press G on our keyboard, and then press Y because we want to move in the Y direction, and then press 1, and that's going to move it 1 unit as you see in the Y direction, and then press enter to confirm that that's what we would like to do. And we're going to do the same thing in the Z direction, move it up 1 unit. So we're going to press G and then Z and 1 and enter. And now we have our cube pretty much set up the way we're going to need it. But I'm going to show you over here that the cube, for some reason, I don't know why this happens, but when you change this to global as it should be, and you click on this vertex, instead of being perfectly aligned and at 0 for the y-axis, it's actually for some reason like very small amount increased, and it should actually be 0. So let's just make this 0. And we're going to have to do this for a couple of points here. Just make all of them 0, all of these points that are on this left side over here, the one that's where this red line is, which is our x-axis. We want all these points to be 0, so just make all of them 0. One at a time, go around, right click each point, and then go over here and make sure that it's 0. And all I did to open this window, guys, is just press this little plus button. That'll open up this window. You can also press T when your mouse is over in this area, and that'll do, whoops, not T, it's N, sorry, and it'll do the exact same thing. So now you know that T is this little window, but N is this one. That's the one we want. But you'll see these ones on the right, for whatever reason, they're exactly where they should be, and it's actually y equals 2 for this side, because this is at y equals 2. But for whatever reason, this left side gets messed up. I just wanted you guys to be aware of that. And it's not really super important that we change it, but I like to do that. So now we have our cube set up pretty much where we want it to get started. So we're going to have to, next is just to bring in the reference image. And to do that, we're going to go down here, make sure background images is checked, and then press this little triangle to open up that tab, and click add image. And then click open. And now we have to find where we saved it. That's why I like to save it to the desktop. It makes it pretty easy. Click on desktop, low poly car, and then McLaren, and then just open image. You won't see our image yet, and that's partially because we're still in perspective mode, and what we're going to have to be in order to see it is orthographic mode. And to do that, you just hit 5 on your number pad. Remember before I told you 1, 3, and 7 would be front view, side view, and top view. This is 5 on your number pad, so all the way to the right, just hit 5. And you'll see it change to ortho. That's what you have to be in order to see your image when you're in those views. We're not currently. So let's hit 3 on the number pad, and we'll now see our image because we're in right view. So in order to see your image, you have to be either in front, right, or top view. Right now we're in right, so we're able to see it. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit because the image is a little small, so now you can see it a little better. And this first one's going to be our side view image. So we don't actually need it for all views. We want to change this to just the right view. That's the one we're going to be using. That's the one we're in right now. So for this particular image, it's just going to be the right view. And in order to see behind this cube, let's just hit Z so we can see through it. And that's going to bring us into wireframe. It just allows you to see through and like see your reference image and see your other vertices that might be hiding behind it. So in order to position this reference image, this is the car we want for the right view, because obviously this is the side view, and this is the one we want to use. And the way I usually set things up is this left side is going to be the front of the car, and the right side is going to be the back of the car. And of course this is the top and this is the bottom. So in order to move this image around, we're going to use these two little sliders. Oh, not these two. These two. Okay. So just slide it to the right a little, and you'll see the image move to the right. Okay. And this one will move it up and down. So we're just gonna bring it down a little. And if you hold shift on your keyboard, it'll move it in smaller increments. So if you just click and drag, it'll move it more quickly. If you hold shift and then click and drag, it'll move it slower, so you can make finer adjustments like this. And the goal here is to get the wheels lined up with the bottom and to get the front lined up with this left side here. That's the first thing we're going to do. So just try to get it as close as you can. If it's not perfect, it's not that big of a deal, but try to get it as close as you can. And if you want to, you can always use the numbers that I have here if you want to make sure it's the exact same as mine, but you don't have to. Just try to get it close. So now what we're going to do is, all I did was select this vertex, and now press B to box select, and we're going to select the rest of these vertices here on this right side, and we're going to drag them by left clicking this arrow all the way to the back, because we want to have this box essentially representing the size of the car, the maximum size of the car, you know, from front to back, top to bottom. So now we're going to right click this one and B to box select so that we make sure we select the one that's behind it. And we're going to do the same over here. We're just going to B to box select and select the top, and we're going to drag it down. And when I'm panning the view, in case you are new to Blender, all you do is you press shift and middle mouse, and that will allow you to pan around so that you don't lose your right view. Because if you just click right, if you just click your middle mouse and drag, you're going to lose your front view, side view, whatever view you're in, and you're just going to go right back to user, which is basically default for any other view than the one specified. So press 3 again on your number pad to get back into right view, because that's the one we want. And drag these down so that they're right at the top. Again, it's like perfection is not really required at this point. We're just making the basic shape, the basic size, trying to figure out each, make sure all the reference images are lined up basically. So that one's done. The next one we're going to do is top view. So press 7 on your number pad and we're in top view. You'll notice there's no image. That's because we specified this is only on the right view. But we're done with this one, so go ahead and left click right here. It'll just minimize this so we don't have to deal with it. And then click add image again, and we're just going to add the same image. So we can click this little picture right here and select the same image. But actually, one thing I forgot to do, and this is very common, you're going to have to do, is you'll notice that the top of the car is actually facing to the left. The way that we want it to go, and the way that you can see how the box is sort of shaped, is we want the front to be right here and the back to be here. So we're going to have to actually rotate this image. And in order to do that, you can use Paint, you can use GIMP, Photoshop, pretty much any program like that will do it. But for this I'm just going to use Paint. So let's just double click on the folder that we made and go to our image. We're just going to right click, go down to open with, and choose Paint. So now that our image is open, it's pretty simple. All we're going to have to do is click on rotate, and we're going to rotate it left by 90 degrees, and that's going to make it, like I said, so that the front of the car is down at the bottom, at least in the top view, and the back of the car is at the top. And that's what we're going to want. So we're just going to go back to File and make sure we save it. Try to save it in the same place as your other one so that obviously it's easier to find. And I'm just going to name this as the top view because that's what we're going to use it for. And then you can close this. We're all done with this. That's all we had to do. And close this as well. And now back to Blender. So this image actually isn't the one that we want because this is the one that's not rotated here, but we can use it for the other views. So right now I'm just for now, we'll come back to this, but I'll set this to the front view. We're not actually going to do anything with this right now, but just set it to the front view and then click this little down arrow to minimize it because we don't actually need that right now. But click on add image and we're going to go get that new image that we got. So since it's a new image, we can't use this because this only finds the current images that we have loaded up. So we actually have to click open and go find it again. So click on your desktop if you saved it in the same place as I did, low poly car, and then find your top view image, and then you're just going to open it. So this is our top view image. You'll notice that it's quite a bit larger than the other one, so we will have to scale it a bit, but that's fine. That usually happens when you switch it like this. I'm not sure why, but it's one of those things that just typically happens. But we can move it, so let's start moving it over. And for this one, the way that we're going to line this up is the front of the car, like I said, is down here. So the front of the car needs to be lined up with this red line. And the center of the car is actually going to be lined up with this green line. So this is where the center is going to be, and this is where the front is going to be. And obviously, since we already set the length of the car, this is going to be the back. So now we have basically our dimensions other than the width. The top view is going to help us determine what the width is, but the side view helped us get the other ones that we're going to need in order to tell how we need to scale this image to make it fit with the side view image that we have. So we're just going to pull it up first. Oop. And get it sort of in position. In order to scale an image, you use this slider down here. Again, you can hold shift and click and drag in order to make it go slower if you want it to go slower. But like I said, all we want to do is make sure the front and back are going to be the same size as what this box is. So just scale it down because it's quite a bit bigger. And you're going to have to keep moving it as you do this, up and down, left and right, trying to make sure that it's the right size. It's still a little big. And once it finally is the same size front to back, we'll be able to change our side to match what the side of this top view image is, because the side view obviously isn't going to give us any information about how wide the car is. This top view will, so this will help give us the actual shape of what our car is going to be, the final shape. It's a little small. Take your time. Line it up as best you can. And remember to line it up. The center needs to be lined up with this green line. That looks pretty good, but you can zoom in and then take a better look, because sometimes it looks okay from a distance, but it actually looks somewhat okay. It's probably a little small because you can see this little space here, and this little space in the front too, just very small. So you gotta size it up a little. Maybe a little more. And pull it up. Down a little. And up a little. That's going to be good enough, I think. Yep, that's pretty good. So now that we have that, we can pretty much tell what the width of the car is going to be, and it's going to be the width of what the image is, not what the width of this box is right now. So we have to change the width of the box, and to do that we're going to use scaling. So we're just going to press S, and we're going to scale along the x-axis. So press X, and just, whoops, first we're going to need to make sure all vertices are selected. So press B up here in the corner, and then drag until you have everything, and let go. Now press S and then X, and go until you have basically the width of your car. And this will also help you tell if it's centered or not, because if it's not centered, you'll have like pieces sticking out over here, kind of like this, when they're not sticking out over here. That's a good indication that it's not centered perfectly, and you probably have to go back and change that a little. But I think I need to make this a little bit wider first, so I'm going to press SX and scale a little bit. That's probably okay. And then try to center your image a little bit better. That's pretty good. So you can see both sides. You know, there's a little sticking out here, but it's also over here. So that means your image is pretty much centered. Things are working good, and everything's all set as far as top view is concerned. At least I'm happy. So now we have two views. We press 3, we can see we have the side view. Pan around a little and you can see it. And we actually, you can see that we have two images here. That means we forgot to set this one to top view. So go over here and make sure this one is set to top view, and that will get rid of this while we're in right view. That's why it's important to make sure each one has their own setting, so that you're only seeing one image at a time. That's all you really need. So now if we go back to 7, hit 7 to top view. So yeah, it looks pretty much aligned. So we still have two more views, front view and the back view. So to go into front view, just hit 1 on your number pad. And you'll remember we have this other one from before that we imported. So we're going to minimize the one we're done with, which is top view, and we're going to go to front view, maximize this. And since this is front view, this is the front view, we're going to try to line this one up. And again, the wheels are going to be lined up with the x-axis, and the center of the car is going to be lined up with this blue line, which is your z-axis. So drag it around, try to line it up. If it's too big, you may need to resize it. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it's perfect fit. You know, things will be different depending on which reference images you're using. So just be aware that, you know, sometimes you will have to make adjustments, and other times it'll be pretty much a perfect fit like this is. Which is nice, because then you don't have to do anything. And who likes doing stuff, right? No, I'm just kidding. So that's pretty much, that's good enough, I would say. I mean, I'm not really a perfectionist with these things. Some people like to be because it helps them model a little bit easier. And I understand that. But me, I don't use my reference images as much as maybe some other people do. Or at least, I don't use these reference images. I use like real life photos. So the last one is back view. And to get into back view, like I said before, we're going to hold Control and press 1. So the opposite of front is back. So basically Control does the opposite. So 7 is top view, for example. What's the opposite of top? Bottom. So Control 7 will do bottom view. Control 1 is back view. So we're going to need a new image for this. We're done with this one though, so click on this, minimize it, and add a new image. And we're going to use an existing one, so you can click this little picture and choose the first one. And let's line up the back view. Same thing as before. To move the sliders around, hold Shift if you want to go slower, line it up perfectly if you want to, get it close if you want to, and then we'll be ready to move on. The exciting part will be over. I'm just kidding, the exciting part's about to begin. The best part, actually making the car. That looks pretty good. The top, bottom, left, and right look like they're pretty even. So that's going to be good enough for me. So before we go too much farther, you're going to want to save this just to make sure you don't lose anything you've done already. I mean, it's not really too hard once you know what you're doing. I'm just going a little slower so you guys can follow along. But let's make sure we save this. So go to File, Save As. You can choose a name for it, and I'm going to go to Desktop and choose our folder, the low poly car folder, and just name this McLaren. Hopefully I spell it correctly this time. 650S. That's it. Sometimes what I like to do is I also like to put the date. So you go down, you look at the date. I'll do like 2/8/16, and that just helps me to like look at my progress. Oh, okay, 3 months ago this is what I was doing. 4 months ago this is what I was doing. Just helps me keep track of things. Know how well I've been doing in terms of progress. You can do that. You don't have to. It's just another one of those preference things. And then just save. So now that's all saved. One thing I forgot to do though was over here, just make sure this is on back, because this is the back view. We want to make sure that they're all, right, front, top, and back. So just save again. This time you don't have to do save as, just click save and it'll automatically save to the same file. So it'll just overwrite it. If you don't want to overwrite it, you're going to have to go back and do save as. I mean, right now it doesn't matter, but later on you might want to keep certain pieces of your model. Like if you want to make a change but you're not sure how it's going to turn out, you might want to save your car and then save the changes as well, so you can always go back and undo the changes because you have both files. But for now, just click save.